All Elite Wrestling is home to a number of masked wrestlers, whether it be members of the cult-like Dark Order, world-class luchadors, or even dinosaurs. There are plenty of faces that remain a mystery on screen. However, when you dig a little deeper online, the identities of these mysterious wrestlers become apparent, with many of them being quite easy to find, and some, well, not so much. So in today's video, let's go on an adventure down the AEW rabbit hole to discover some of the faces behind the masks as we look at 10 masked AEW wrestlers unmasked. And before we get into it, be sure to let me know that you want more list-related content by dropping a like to give it a kick into the algorithm, and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any future uploads, and let me know in the comments what other videos you want to see. Serpentico makes up one half of the tag team, the Chaos Project, alongside Lufa. Having signed with AEW in March 2020, Serpentico is his most popular gimmick. However, he has not only worked under a mask, but he's also wrestled multiple times under his other name of John Cruz. In fact, most of his early matches with AEW were under his John Cruz persona, which means there exists a lot of footage of him without his mask, although many may not have realized it's the same person. He works both gimmicks in and out of AEW, with him occasionally appearing on the independent scene as either persona. The closest the Serpentico character has come to being unmasked physically was on the 22nd July 2020 Dynamite, where he would seemingly join the Inner Circle, helping them win their match against the Jurassic Express, although it was then revealed that it was in fact Sammy Guevara in a cunning disguise, meaning for now his identity is safe in the kayfabe world. Fuego del Sol quickly emerged as one of the fastest rising wrestlers on the AEW roster, although more recently he's lost some momentum, forcing an attitude change to do whatever it takes to reach the top. The Underdog has amassed a following with his performances on AEW Dark, as well as through appearances on the YouTube vlogs of real-life friend Sammy Guevara. On January 6th, 2020, 5 months before his All Elite debut, Fuego would appear on an episode of WWE Monday Night Raw as a jobber, taking on former Wyatt family member Eric Rowan. Working under the name of KJ Orso, without his signature mask, Fuego would of course go on to lose, but that wasn't the worst part. After the 25-second match was over, he was dragged out of the ring as Rowan pushed his face into a spider cage before emerging with red liquid across his face. He'd then run up the ramp to end his first and only appearance in a WWE ring, with the scars perhaps the reason for putting his mask back on. Known in AEW as 10, Preston Vance made his wrestling debut in 2015 and went by the ring names of Cody Vance and Preston Vance. Preston, the number 10 of the Dark Order, is the group's most intimidating member, and also one of the most successful with a stellar singles record. He's also a fan favorite and is featured in Being the Elite and Sammy Guevara's vlogs. Before AEW, he spent the majority of his career on the Indies, although he did make an appearance in NXT, losing a tag match to the War Raiders, and during this time, he would wrestle without his mask. His AEW debut match against Darby Allin also saw him fight without the mask, although since he joined the Dark Order, he's more often been seen under a hood, although there has been occasions where he's been spotted in backstage footage without it. The co-founder of the Dark Order, Evil Uno, has been a part of AEW ever since his debut at Double or Nothing 2019, the promotion's first pay-per-view. The AEW original has been a member of the roster since, carving out a leadership role as the voice of reason of the Dark Order. Unlike most of his fellow stablemates, Evil Uno has been wrestling with a mask long before he joined All Elite Wrestling, with him mostly known for his portrayal of Player Uno, a video game-inspired character, before he turned, well, evil. Despite this, he has worked without a mask on the independent circuit multiple times, although his last known unmasked match happened in 2008. Most hilariously, Uno would formerly wrestle under the name of Flip D. Burger, or Flip for short, where he played the role of a fast food worker on the Canadian Indies, where his face can be seen in plain sight. Luchasaurus is one of AEW's largest and most athletic talents. A member of the Jurassic Express tag team alongside Jungle Boy, he has impressed fans with his deceptive agility and his striking look. As for his mask, it originates from his days in Lucha Underground, where he played a character named Viboro, before he left the company after having his head chopped off, before returning to the Indies where he started to get chants of his now name. With that said, before his more recent wrestling days, he would star in the reality TV show Big Brother, where he was obviously seen without his mask on. After this, he was then recruited to WWE's developmental brand FCW, which then became NXT, where he performed as Judas Devlin long before he donned the mask. Although he is yet to be officially and purposefully unmasked in AEW, there was a botch on an episode of Dynamite on the 29th of July 2020 that saw Luchasaurus's mask almost fall off before he had to readjust it. However, his face wasn't visible due to the camera angle and his quick reactions. Next, we have someone who technically isn't a masked wrestler, but she does cover up her face to hide her real identity, that being the gruesome Abaddon. Abaddon has become one of the most dominant women on the roster with a strong AEW record, and as of this recording, she holds a record of 34 wins and 3 losses, and has wrestled every single match under the paint. Unlike fellow face-painted wrestlers Darby Allin and Sting, Abaddon has never had her face paint rubbed off by an opponent in the ring in AEW, and perhaps it's her terrifying aura that has stopped her opponents from stooping so low. Although she has never showed her face on AEW television, images of her without her face paint are available online, where she is seen to be not so gruesome after all. The sources of these are unknown, but they are presumably taken from social media accounts prior to the gimmick taking form, although since becoming Abaddon, she has gone on to be very protective of her current real-life look. Okay, I'm cheating again, but let's go to another face-painted fighter. This time, let's take a look at the true identity of Danhausen. The man that is very nice, very evil, shot to fame when his outlandish character connected with the crowds at independent wrestling shows before his YouTube channel took him to a whole new level, with him currently sitting at 128,000 subscribers. Now playing his trade in AEW, he has only been seen under his face paint. However, if you rewind back through his highlight reels, you'll find multiple matches before he transformed into the Danhausen that we know today, where his face is in plain sight. Previously working under the name of Kid Gorgeous and Donovan Danhausen, the human form of Danhausen worked shows until he began turning strange in January 2018, 4 years into his career. Not only this, but Danhausen has appeared in numerous interviews with his real face visible, although he'll tell you this is in fact his human makeup, but I'm not sure whether to believe him or not. One half of the Lucha Brothers alongside his brother Rey Fenix, someone we'll get to later, Penta Oscuro, or formerly known as Penta El Zero M or Pentagon Jr., is considered one of the best luchadors in the world today. Much like many Mexican wrestlers, Penta dons a mask during his matches and is known for keeping his identity sacred, as is tradition in his home nation. Although he has posted images of himself without his mask on social media, he always covers up his face to some degree, whether it be his eyes or mouth that are obscured, and as far as I can tell, there is absolutely no trace of a clear image of his full face. With that said, the former Pentagon Jr. has been unmasked on a number of occasions inside the ring, although parts of his face are always hidden by either face paint or his own hands. The most revealing unmasking was on a November 2020 episode of Dynamite in a match against his brother Rey Fenix, when his mask was ripped almost in two, the closest we have to a full face reveal. And speaking of Rey Fenix, let's try to get to the bottom of his, facial situation. Fenix has earned a reputation as one of AEW's most entertaining wrestlers, with his high-flying ability almost unmatched, with few luchadors in the world able to glide like the Phoenix King. As you know, Fenix wrestles in a mask and has done since his first ever match in 2005. Images of his full face are impossible to find, but much like his brother, he has been unmasked in the ring on multiple occasions, although his face has never been 100% clear. On the aforementioned episode of Dynamite in November 2020, in the brother versus brother match, Fenix was nearly unmasked with much of his face being in shot. There is also an image that has surfaced on Reddit of Fenix with a mask that just covers his mouth, with his upper face on show, although one Redditor did use Photoshop to reveal what his face actually looks like. Well, kind of. And finally, Excalibur is one of AEW's main commentators, with him, Taz, Jim Ross, and Tony Schiavone forming the announce team of All Elite Wrestling. He usually provides play-by-play commentary, helping the audience keep up with the action inside the ring, hyping up spots whilst teaching us some interesting variations of wrestling move names. Before he was a commentator though, Excalibur would wrestle on the American independent scene, appearing in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, which he co-owns, as well as the likes of CZW and Shikara. During his time time in the Independents, where he would work under the same mask he wears today, he would wrestle a match against ECW original Sandman. He was put in a rear naked choke by his opponent, who began working on removing his mask before succeeding, and for a split second you could see Excalibur's real face. As well as this, he has worked as a graphic designer on the side of his wrestling career over the years under the real name of Mark Letzman, with a more recent image of his face being found on one of his design portfolio websites. And is there anything I missed from any of these entries? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And before you go, make sure you check out every All In wrestler that didn't sign for AEW.